Hey, film buffs and movie fans. Now that I say that out loud, I realize that those are exact synonyms, that those mean exactly the same thing. So how redundant of me. But anyway, let's get to it. So film fans and movie buffs, whatever I just said. I just came back, literally just now, I came back from like this special advanced screening of a new Australian movie called The Dry. This movie actually doesn't come out properly, to the public till the 1st of next year. I got to go because I'm special and better than you. That's not true at all. It was like a open to the public preview screening. But it was, as far as I can tell, only the second showing of this movie ever. They showed one last night. There was the proper premiere with the cast and all that stuff and press and whatever. But this was the second time that anybody ever got to see it and the first time that anyone in just the general public got to see it. So that was pretty cool. And something about this special screening that kind of set it apart from other preview screenings I've been to is that they actually had the author there named Jane Harper, as well as the director Robert Connolly, who I'm actually a bit of a fan of. Like, I'm not super familiar with him, but I really love this one show that he created called Barracuda, which is a fantastic, just a 4-part mini-series about an Olympic swimmer and about dealing with failure. And it's amazing. It's so damn good. Watch that if you've never seen it. Huge recommend. And also at the Q&A was Eric Bana himself, the star of the film. And so that was kind of cool. It was like, oh my God, there's like famous people. Blush. It was just kind of cool to be like in their presence, the people who are better than us. I don't really think that. It was really insightful and inspirational to hear what they had to say about the film in general and the Australian film industry. Just kind of really insightful and inspirational because, it was really interesting to watch these people who just seemed like really genuine people who had these successful careers in the industry that I love so much and who just had this strong passion and were talking about films and stuff. It was really probably my favorite part of the experience. That being said, the film was good. I'm not taking away from the film at all. The film The Dry, let's get into that. This isn't a video about the Q&A thing. This is a review of that movie. Is about a detective who is returning to his hometown after a violent act occurs. I'm not going to get too much into that. I don't want to spoil anything for people who know nothing about it, but I will say that it goes then on to kind of unravel these two different mysteries in two different timelines as the film goes along. And I really liked that sort of template. That was interesting. You don't always see that. And I did think that this kind of set it apart from a lot of sort of just generic detective movies that you see. Another thing that obviously sets it apart is that it's Australian. We don't often make movies like these, like we as a country. Often Australian movies, I'm not the biggest fan of. Like, often they're just kind of movies that are like about, oh, Australia's beautiful. Or it's about like some kid who's like part of this quirky family and he wants to like do some sort of sport or something. And like it's all quirky and fun and everybody's super nice. But no, this was super dark. It was very moody. It set a tone. It did it well. Yeah, it really gets you in. It gets you sucked into the kind of mystery that's going on. The movie does kind of lack a sense of humor in that way, though, I do have to say. Like, this is a pretty dark, dreary movie, but purposefully so. Like, it really sets a tone and runs with it throughout the whole movie. And it's very moody and it looks damn good. Like, a lot of Australian movies, I don't want to be too nitpicky. I don't want to be too much of like a critic here because, I'm not an expert. But a lot of Australian movies, I feel like they end up looking like cheap. They kind of look like a Home and Away episode. This movie though, fuck, it's cinema. Like, that's the only way to describe it. Like, it looks fantastic. Like, it's really well shot. That's something that I want to give this film high praise for because, yeah, as I've said, like, I'm not the biggest fan of Australian movies generally, which maybe is hypocritical of me to say or something because, I'm Australian. But just a lot of them don't super do it for me. There's of course great exceptions and I have some favorites and, I'm not saying we're all duds and, we do bring out some good stuff, but I feel like a lot of them don't fully resonate with me. This one though, I feel like it felt like it could have been an American film, but it was just about characters who happened to be Australian, and I think that that's actually really good. It's not about Australia, and I really appreciate it for that. It's about characters. It feels like it's a story that could be set anywhere in terms of the plot. Now, in terms of the actual characters themselves, well, they do happen to be very Australian and get the culture very right. One criticism that I have for this movie though is that it really lacked moisture. Like, it was really dry. you know? It was really dry. Do you get it? Because that's the title. Ugh! Stop it, you idiot! That was a dumb thing to say. That was a dumb joke, Jack, because it was too sophisticated. Your audience won't get it. Ugh! I will say that I don't absolutely love this movie. It's just not super for me. I'm not super into detective stories, really. I think it's just, as a genre in itself, they're usually just pretty much the same kind of thing that you've seen. But the thing is that I do think that this film, though, had kind of more of a personal touch because that main character was involved with the situation that was going on and knew all the people, had a history in this town and stuff. And I do think that that elevated the film to being much more interesting than it probably would have been if this was just like about a rookie cop learning to be a detective and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's exactly the sort of thing you would have seen before. And yeah, so I think that that does kind of elevate it. I will say, though, one criticism that I have is that by the time the mysteries get a bit sort of solved and all that kind of thing, by the time the reveals happen, which I obviously won't get too much into, but when they did happen, I thought they sort of fizzled out, if I'm being honest. But I think what made up for that was the character drama. Really, this is a character piece about the main character, Aaron Falk, more so than it is about, you know, who did what and all that kind of stuff, if that makes sense. And I really like that. Something else that I just wanted to touch on, I don't really usually focus too heavily on like acting and acting ability and all that kind of stuff, but I have to give props to this guy. I wrote the name down over here, Matthew Nable. This dude is in the show that I just mentioned before, Barracuda, and God damn, this guy transformed in front of my eyes in this movie. Like, he is a completely different character. He's not in it a ton in this movie, but he impressed the hell out of me. Like, he stole every scene that he was in, which, again, you can count on one hand how many scenes he was in. But in Barracuda, he's like this old, wise, reserved guy. He's very quiet. He's very confident. He's in charge. In this, though, he's kind of just like a shithead. He's just kind of like this guy that you would know, like, if you live around here. Like, he's rude. He's you know, he's obviously pretty insecure and has to compensate by being rude and swearing and being an idiot and that kind of stuff. And I know I swear, but ignore that aspect of my criticism. It's not hypocritical, I promise. Like, there's this one scene where there's the two main cops of the movie, and they're kind of coming up to meet him and whatever, and he looks off in the distance and is like, "You looking for a job here? Oh, too bad, we have a no dickhead policy." Basically just giving him the middle finger. And it's like, what a dick. Like, I know exactly who this guy is. Like, I know people like that, and I feel like if you're from here, you'd feel the same way. Like, there was kind of a familiar vibe with this guy. It was just kind of unpleasant, but I thought it was like done really well. Like, it got the culture kind of our unpleasantness really right, and it got the culture of the types of people who would live in these types of towns and stuff, the nice people and the bad people. And I kind of enjoyed seeing that kind of thing. I felt like this movie was sort of more representative of what Australia is really like, sort of, than some other Australian movies that you watch where everybody is kind of, yeah, it's a quirky family and everything's nice and everything's perfect and stuff, like you see with a lot of Australian movies. There were two stories going on at once, like I mentioned, and I did kind of actually have a preference as to which story was more interesting to me. I kind of liked one of them a bit more, and unfortunately that's the one that got much less screen time. But maybe that's just me personally, that's just personal preference. Not sure that's the film or the novel that this is based on's fault. That being said, yes, this is based on a novel, if you are unaware. I haven't read it, so like that's why I hadn't really mentioned it till now, because that's not really a primary factor when it comes to me reviewing this, because I don't know, I have nothing to compare it to. This was the first time that I saw the story get revealed. My wife is a massive fan of the book. That's the main reason we went to go see this at all. But I was quite happy to go see like this advanced screening with a Q&A with like famous people and shit. That was cool. It was a really good experience. But I will say that I do not believe that is making me biased at all when it comes to this film. I think it was genuinely very good. It was very well made. But again, like I said, I'm not being too heavily biased and leaning on it being just this great, fantastic thing. I don't think it's the best film in the world, but I do think it's pretty high up there when it comes to Australian cinema, and I do like it quite a bit. Like I said, it's not the best thing, and I feel like I did pick apart some things when it came to the mystery. I feel like some things kind of fizzled out by the end. I won't lie, that's kind of just my general opinion, but while driving home with my wife, I'm like, but why did this character do this? It was kind of one of those mysteries, like where you start picking apart some things, but I think mainly that's just me being dumb and not putting two and two together, because she explained a few things and I'm like, oh yeah, no shit, that makes That makes way more sense than I thought. So, take everything I've said with a grain of salt because I'm a dumbass. But again, I really appreciate that this was an Australian film that wasn't just about Australia, it was about the actual characters who just happened to be Australian, and it was really well done. I think this really sets itself apart from a lot of other Australian films, and I hope we see more like it. Even though it wasn't my favourite, I'd give it probably like a 7.5 out of 10. Like, it was solid, it was good, I enjoyed it, but I really hope that this inspires more filmmakers from here to make stuff like this, because that's what I want to see. I would love if, like, just we started to get, you know, films that really rival with America, or South Korea is another country that has been making great stuff in the recent years and stuff. I would love if Australia began to be a big part of the film industry, which apparently is the opposite of the direction that we're headed in, though, because the government something didn't give as much funding or something, so that's bad. But I don't know. I'm no expert. Let's not get too much into that. I don't really know what I'm talking about, so yeah. And that's all. Thanks for watching. Cool. I enjoyed it. Do the things that, you know, all the YouTubers say. You know what the things are? Like and comment and share, subscribe. Do the things. Come on. Come on. We all know. Come on. Okay. That's all. Cheerio.